Welcome to the Possibility Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton, aka Possibilityman. We're committed to bringing you guests who strive to better people's lives and serve as a force of good in the world. Our guest today is Julz Rivera. She is a transformational coach, and she's dedicated to a life of contribution by helping individuals gain freedom from self-limiting beliefs. She's the founder of Coaching with Julz. Coach Julz, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Possibilityman, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Look, I've been looking forward to talking with you, and I have a ton of questions to ask. But first, this reminder to our listeners and our viewers. Follow, like, and share this podcast wherever you find it. Coach Julz, look, let me start with my first question because people want to know, who is Julz Rivera? Tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up? For example.
Yeah, I am from a small agricultural town near Ottawa, Canada. So that is where I made my debut all those years ago. And now I live in Dallas, Texas. So.
Well, I've been to both of your cities. I love Ottawa. When I visited some years ago. And of course, I've been to Big Dallas as well. Yeah, so what was your early career?
My early career is I have a graduate degree in marriage, couple, family counseling. So I worked under supervision with supervisors for a little while before I transitioned, and also a school teacher. So teaching kindergarten, fourth grade, and sixth grade.
What was it like being a teacher? Especially a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah, they always kept me on my toes, resilient. I just, there's no cap on their little brains of what they can do. It's a really good time for sure.
Yeah, those little ones are really free, aren't they?
Yes, and they say anything. And it's just, when you step back and you just watch how they are, it's marvelous. Like I can't even explain it.
Yeah, and so we've ruined them, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I have the funniest stories from them, but they tell it like it is without filter. So
yeah, that's fantastic.
Never knew what the day would bring.
I've looked at your website and kind of studied you a bit, and you mentioned that there was a moment that changed everything for you. Do you recall what I'm referring to? And if so, would you share with us a little bit about that moment that changed everything?
Absolutely. Like I said, I was in counseling, the profession, but while I was doing that, I like to call it how my house flipped upside down, but maybe it was right side up because I left an unhealthy marriage for 18 years. And so the one part that really, I didn't know it at the time, but was pivotal, was when I was sitting on my couch and thinking about my future, and I saw complete darkness. I could not see the future at all. And in the moment, it was very scary. It was a huge realization, married for all of those years and stepping outside of that. How I look at it now is very different because I realized from the dark comes the light to be able to create something completely brand new. So that was a pivotal point for me. And also, I got in touch with my own coaches at that time. So they were instrumental on, I saw a clear path of where I wanted to go.
Yeah, a lot of people are faced with that situation today. So what are some things that you learned from making such a, I would call it a bold decision to step out? And what are a couple of things that you've learned from that may benefit someone else who is going through it or who has been through it?
You have it all within you. It's all within you. One thing that I did not do during the time is reach out for support to let people know what I was going through. So I swallowed a lot. And one thing that I learned is people are there for you, that there are resources to be able to help you change. And really, another thing was that life happened for me, not to me. So what was something that I needed to learn about that. So really understanding that possibilities and opportunities are all around me, because I was clearly focused, tunnel vision. So to reach out for support, widen my view, and really step into ownership and responsibility of where I was in my life was another thing that really turned my life around.
Do you have children, Jules?
I do. I have 3 children and 2 granddaughters.
Uh-huh. Okay. So, and I just want to ask, you don't have to respond to this, but how did they handle, your divorce?
I love that question, and I'm going to tell you why. Because
Okay.
for me, I was very fearful that I was going to ruin them. I say that because it was very scary. I didn't want them to look at the world differently. So I was living in a bubble because I did not reach out for support. So when I decided to leave, I kept everything in. They didn't really understand what was happening, and they were teenagers at the time. So I had a very real conversation, transparent conversation with them about the reality of the situation, age appropriately, of course. And that really changed the trajectory of our relationship and who I was becoming. Because to have that connection with them where they understood and offered support. And then I realized that the choice that I was making wasn't necessarily best for them to stay in a relationship that wasn't healthy. So it was eye-opening, and kids are resilient. And I really felt me becoming transparent with them is a permission for them to be transparent with me in their life. So
Yeah.
it's 360.
Yeah. I mean, so that's important, right? To have a conversation, because sometimes parents could feel, I don't want to say anything about it,
Yeah.
but that's not what you would recommend. Is that what you, yeah.
No, I recommend being transparent, that I was in ownership and responsibility for where I was. And I had to, I call it my transformational autopsy. I had to be very real with them, because kids know, they know. And I'm telling you, our relationship now, 5 years later, is such a deeper connection because I opened up and allowed them and the permission. So as they're getting older, they're in turn the permission as well, like coming to me and having these open conversations. So it's a beautiful thing.
Well, I'm glad that you were transparent with that, Julie, because that's going to help a lot of people, just what you've said there. So what prompted you to start a coaching career?
I worked in clinical under supervision, and it wasn't necessarily where I wanted to be. And then as my house flipped upside down or right side up, whatever you want to call it, based on the perspective, I came in contact with a coach myself, and it was action-based. Somebody I've already sought, assistance from a therapist. I've already been there, but coaching is very different. It's like what action steps can you take to move the needle in your life? And at that time, that's exactly what I was ready for. And so I thought, I have changed so much in my life, and can see possibility and opportunity. So ever since then, I'm a big yes to coaching.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You've seen both sides of this coin. So I got to ask you this. You've been a therapist. You are a therapist, whether you're practicing now or not, and you're now a coach. What's the difference between those two things?
Oh, that's a great question too. Therapy, there's different modalities, how you see through, right? So therapy, you work on a lot of past trauma. Not to say in coaching, we don't touch on it, but it's more of limiting beliefs, connecting those dots, but really being present. So I kind of mirror it to sports world, right? So when you have a coach on the sidelines, they give you the tools and you try it on and you practice those drills. Well, that's what coaching is. It's very much action. Like the client is ready to take the steps to move. They're 100% committed and invested to move the needle in their life. They might have worked with a therapist or still work with a therapist on the past, but we're ready to move forward with trying on some skills, some coping. And, it's really they show up and do the work. So
That's so insightful, what you just said, Julie. Gosh, therapy, and you said this is important. They work on the past, work on the past traumas, but coaches like you're looking toward something else, the
yes.
present. Or that's powerful. So, who inspired your coaching? If you were to, you don't have to give me names, but what inspires you? What inspires you? What inspires your coaching?
Well, there was a program that came, it's really funny. There's a program that came to me that I was looking at enrolling in for a business accelerator program. And one of the enrollment coaches at the time called me, and I was completely already had a negative mindset about it. They're going to ask me for all of this money. And we had the most beautiful talk. I laughed, I cried, all in the span of 40 minutes. I did enroll in the program, but we have kept in touch. And I have worked with Brian a few times during doing a course together. And it was just a beautiful moment. And I felt he came into my life at the right time. And so he is a coach, and he's no longer with that program, but he's doing his own thing. And he's amazing. And so he moved me. And in that, I said, this is where it's at.
No, this is where it's at. Okay. So, but you not only are you a coach, Julie, you branded yourself as a transformational coach. And I want to understand a little bit about that. What is the transformational coach?
Well, it's really from the inside out. So taking a look at who we are from the inside, understanding that at every moment we have a choice to make in our life. And sometimes, like, I did not believe in my marriage that I had a choice. So then when I decided to make a choice, I always have the choice. So it's really transformational, going back to the identity, who you are, who you be, that you go after, and it causes you to do something different to have the results. So transformation to me is transforming into your best self at any time, having the choice to do so from the inside out. Therefore, when you transform your inside, you transform your external world. So it always starts with you.
But so many of us, Julie, don't know who we are. How do we come to this to this state, just be able to boldly say, oh, I know who I am. I know what I want.
No, it takes work. It's almost like I had to get to know myself again. So I always like to share this story. After, my marriage ended, I didn't even know what music I liked. Now, it wasn't because he told me what I had to listen to. It was nothing like that. But for people who constantly like, oh, it's okay, you can, we can go here to eat, or you can listen to your music. I lost part of myself because I chose to just continuously let I didn't know what I like to listen to, because I was always like, it's okay, we can listen to whatever, it doesn't matter. And then come to be on my own, I didn't know what music I listened to. And I find that so often in people, that they just say, oh, it's okay, it doesn't matter. And you lose a part of yourself,
Yeah. And sometimes that's hard for an individual to discern, right? Is that if someone else is calling the shots, it's almost as if they've lost their voice. So how does the person rediscover that they do have choices in this life, because they are human beings?
Well, it's really simple to get to know yourself. For example, a lot of the times I hear people say, I don't need to do that. I don't need to go get this coffee, or I don't need to go have dinner at this restaurant. It's okay. Well, I invite you to go get the tea, go get the tea at 9 a.m. And if you want the tea at 4 p.m, go get it. Now, if you don't like it at 4 p.m, you're like, wow, now I know I only like this particular tea in the morning. It seems very simple, but it's just getting to know yourself and what you like, and acknowledging it for, because sometimes we don't know the simple things.
Would you say that requires courage to be able to get to know you and to call your own shots?
It is really, but it's exciting. It doesn't have to be daunting. Take the time to date yourself and celebrate everything that you accomplished, to include if you just got to clean out the fridge on the weekend and that's the only thing you did, but it made you really happy, then celebrate in that. Celebrate what you like. And it's about really being conscious of your thoughts. They also say that the numbers vary, so don't quote me on this, but 70 to 90,000 thoughts that we have in our head daily, and 80% of them are negative. And so how many times are we really not even aware of where our thought process is going? So it's kind of about being aware of what your thoughts are, how your internal dialogue is with yourself, and catching it, and then choosing something different.
Mm-hmm. You talk about, and you've written about, reclaiming your life and your identity. As you were reclaiming yours, what did that feel like?
I wish I could tell you that it was all roses. But it was the toughest thing that I did was be on my own. And it was the best gift I gave myself. So there was some dark times. There was really dark times of me being one with me. How did I get there? Asking myself, no longer hiding behind my circumstance, because I think we do that. We hide behind our circumstances sometimes. And then when we don't have that anymore, that's where the responsibility, and it feels uncomfortable. But when we talk about identity and becoming truly who we are meant to be, to look at the world the way it is and create what we want to create, it takes the courage to learn and to get to know yourself, and to acknowledge yourself in what you deem good or bad or right or wrong. I don't really like to use those terms. I like to say effective or ineffective, but.
Yeah. Does spirituality show up in your work?
Oh, yes. Yes.
In what way?
So for me, I have a lot of faith, and I was angry for a long time. And then I realized it was just because it wasn't meant for me. And so I had to come full circle and realize that I wouldn't go back to where I used to be for anything. So I don't hold on to bitterness. I release, and I am grateful every day for where I am now. So there is no bitterness, but it took a while to get there. It's a process, right? You can't rush the process. So when it comes to spirituality, I definitely have faith that it's guided me and has got me to where I am now. So working with my clients, I also I meet them where they are, universe, God, wherever they are, and how important that is in their life to be able to move the needle.
What kinds of challenges and issues do your clients bring to you? Just generally, maybe 2 or 3 of them. What comes into your practice?
It's interesting because some of the people I work with now, there's almost a 1 foot back in the older generation, suck it up buttercup, and 1 foot into today's world where it's okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to do for yourself. And so there's this resistance where I'm supposed to handle it all. I'm not supposed to have these feelings, but yet I know there's something better for me. So we kind of are working through that, and really learning to hone the energy and not having the external take away what we get to keep for ourselves, and pouring into self. Because when you pour into yourself, you show up different in your workplace, with your family, with your friends. You're more authentic, you're settled, and you no longer react. You learn to respond to the external.
Yeah, some people, when they think about who needs coaching, they may assume that only someone who's going through a crisis needs coaching. So I'm asking you, who needs a coach? Who can benefit from a transformational coach?
Everybody. And I see that because I also still have my own coaches. So it depending on where you want to go. The clients I work with, their life is working. They just know there's something more, and there's something in the way of getting there, and they don't quite know what it is. So we uncover what is the block. And I like to say most of the time it's just us with us. It's the client against the client. Like there could be a limiting belief. And so we identify it and we rewrite the narrative for them to be able to move forward. So personally, professionally, how we do one thing is how we do everything. So some of my clients have had amazing shifts. And they came to me about their personal life, but yet it's working in their professional too, because they're showing up different, and it's a glow because it's from the inside out.
Wow. So CEO can benefit from having a coach in his or her life.
Absolutely.
And the housewife or construction worker may also benefit. Is that about right?
Absolutely. 100%. Anybody can.
Yeah. You know, you talked about something, and as I said, I did review you, and I liked it because you talked about coaching fit. Can you tell us what, if you recall that I'm referring to, can you tell us about that and why is this important?
A coaching fit, if I'm understanding correctly, I would say the client and the coach have to be a match. They have to be a yes, the coach has to be a yes, right? And if you can say, yes, I'm here, I'm 8 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 ready to move the needle, and it's a good fit, you're going to go far. So, you know, there's different coaches for different things. So people might be ready to move to a 6-figure in their business. Therefore, they're going to look for a business coach that can do that. So if you are going, well, I'm happy, but there's something I'm missing, you know, it's a mindset, I'm not sure, then you can get a coach that's going to be a good fit. So I think you have to match, you know, the coach has to be a yes to you, and you have to be a yes to the work. And when that relationship is synced, magic happens.
You know, you're the first person that I've heard say this. And once again, I don't think I got it wrong. You said, you know, if you meet with a coach and you don't feel that it's a good fit, find another coach. Did you say something like that?
Oh, I believe that 100%, right? Because when you're investing, people are so quick to invest in Apple products or what, but when you think about investing for yourself, this is something that you want to make sure that you're 100% in alignment with, right? So you want to make sure that you and the coach are on the same page, that you are aligned together in order for it. So I really believe you have that call and you both come together with what works for you. And there is no hard feelings I'm going to speak from me, if it's not a good fit, because I value people and I want them to move the needle in their life. So if I'm not it, please absolutely go find a coach that you can work with to make your life better and flourish the way you want to. Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, and once again, in studying you, and I went pretty deep on you, and I saw some things that I hadn't seen clearly until I heard you. And it's about mindset. And, you know, you just didn't talk about mindset. You mentioned that there is a negative mindset, and I really didn't understand what that meant before. And then you mentioned there's an empowered mindset. Now, once again, I want you to help me clarify this if I didn't get it right. So what's a negative mindset? And then what's an empowered mindset?
Sure. So I can go into like a fixed mindset where things happen to me, you know, I'm the victim, or you can go into what is the lesson that I need to learn in this. And sometimes we don't always know. So for me, you know, life isn't going to be 100% roses. There's going to be challenges, and I always joke, I'm like, that's the time you get to go, yes, it's time for me to step up. So what is this mean for me? And so really being empowered in responsibility and looking at it for what is this telling me? What is for me here? You know, and if there's some struggle at work, how can I be reflective to see what I'm creating? It's really being self-reflective and not being kind of, or the martyr or the victim in your life, right? So that's an empowerment that I like to challenge people with.
I once again, I'm receiving because I was receiving what you were sharing, and this negative mindset. I'm thinking some people may think venting is a positive thing, but I got the impression from you said, wait a minute, venting is simply sustaining a negative mindset. Is that about right? Or I mean, I'm not saying it's not important to vent, but
Yeah.
I just get it's like blowing into a balloon. So you keep saying this stuff, that's a negative mindset.
Well, I love that you said that because I really believe sometimes we need to get it out. It's kind of like a bruise, it's better out than in. So I even for my kids, I ask them too, I'm like, who do you need me to be right now? Do you need 2 minutes to get it off of your chest? Take the 2 minutes. The point is not to stay in it because sometimes we just need to get it out, right? Because then we get into this false positivity where we're like, oh, I'm fine. Our body doesn't feel fine. And now we have a resistance that I'm not enough. And you get into this kind of self beat up judgment mode. And sometimes you just need 2 minutes, no more than 5 minutes to get it off your chest and move on. Right.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
not against that at all, because sometimes I think we need it. It's just not staying in there. It is not giving it more energy than it needs.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, not staying in there, because I'm sure you've been around people, they want to criticize the government, criticize the president, the Congress, and everybody. And this is the way they live their life. And is that the negative mindset when you're always listening to the critic? Is that
Yes.
the negative mindset? Mhm.
Yeah. And for me, I shut that off. Like
Mm,
I'm very, very protective of what I prime my brain with. So
yeah,
if it's constant complaining, like you watch yourself if you're around negative people and the news all the time that are complaining, how it makes you feel. And so once you're aware of that, you tune it out. So I choose not to have the news on all of the time
yeah,
and watch what I say. And I really believe too that people think, well, I'm only one person, I can't change the world. But if you feel that the world needs more compassion, then you get to be more compassionate in your life, right? You
yeah.
start there.
That's great. I like that. And I'm chuckling because sometimes the critic is the one wearing your pants, isn't it? uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that would just be my advice is, just not engaging in it. And eventually once you
Mm,
stop, you stop engaging, it doesn't come to you as much as it used to.
mm.
It's really phenomenal because you're not giving off that energy that's what you're about anymore.
That's so reassuring, Julie. You said, if you stop giving off that energy, the negativity doesn't come to you as much. And wow, I like that. Now, help me understand the empowered. If you want to use a different word, you may use it, but I get that sense from you, that empowered mindset. What is that about?
Well, it's choosing. I'm going to say choosing because it really is a choice in any moment. Is choosing to replace being aware of your thoughts, choosing a different thought, replacing it that's going to forward you, right?
Mm,
Choosing and power that you don't have to listen to people's negativity all the time and you can wish them well, right?
mm,
So empowering yourself, being protective of your energy and knowing that life happens for you. And so when
mm,
you understand what is the lesson in this for me and how can I confront it and be able to move the needle is empowerment because you are responsible at all times, right? So this is where we dive a little bit deeper into it. So, we can get it to a conscious level, but when we get into what responsibility really is in empowering choices, it takes a little bit of practice. I always say you can't go to the gym one time and build up this big bicep. It takes practice, it takes awareness, but having the stamina to be able to daily listen to your thoughts, not be in judgment of it, but be curious. So why am I thinking this? What is a pattern and what can I learn from it? And how can I shift that is going to
mhm.
forward me and not keep me stuck? Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Do you find that people can show themselves compassion easily, show themselves, forgiveness easily, or is that a challenge that we humans bring to coaches like yourself?
Oh, it's a challenge. Yes.
Mm,
Yeah, it's a challenge. We may set out three goals that they want to work on. And then getting into it, we notice that it shifts because there's the confidence level. You can think that you're confident, and then you understand that there's a bit of self-worth or like lack of confidence because we judge ourselves. So I always
mm,
say, treat yourself like you would your best friend.
yeah,
If your best friend was coming to you with an issue, would you turn around and say they were, you know, call them a name,
yeah,
for doing that? Or would you have compassion? Will you get to treat yourself as great as you would your loved one or better?
yeah, yeah, you deserve it, right? You
Yeah,
deserve to treat yourself
absolutely.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad you mentioned choice a few times during our conversation. And I noticed in your work that the power of choice shows up. And so when I saw that, it hit me as, whoa,
Mhm.
so, but this sounds like a superpower. What are you talking about, the power of choice, Julie?
Yes, I always say if you don't know what your superpower is, some people say that I am, my superpower is loving, is caring, and I love all of that. But if you don't know what your superpower is, understand you have the power of choice in your life at any moment. At any
Mm,
moment doesn't mean that it's going to be simple. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. But when you understand at the end of the day, it's always you with you in this life, that you get to choose
mm,
how you show up. You get to choose for yourself what works, what doesn't work. You're like
yeah.
a system, an operating system. So what does that look like for you? How do you operate, and how can you choose to live the life that you've always wanted?
Yeah, I like that, because maybe I got this wrong. I could just imagine that someone could be in an abusive cycle,
Mhm.
and the abuser would say, I love you. And the person who is being abused may not know that they can choose to do something else. Does it make sense? And,
Oh,
have you ever seen anything like this?
yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. And leaving an unhealthy marriage was
mm,
something that I didn't think I had a choice. On social media too, some of my posts, the response was, I also left a 30-year marriage and I didn't think I had a choice. Because
mm,
and then it's when, for me, my mouth was full of sores because I kept it down. Right. So that was the area the stress was eating me from the inside out. And
mm,
so what my mind was trying to justify and say, it's just this, or you're gonna, that your kids are gonna be hurt. My body was telling me something different. And that's what got my attention. It wasn't my brain. So I
mm,
said, I have to choose different, but it went to the extreme. And
yeah.
so I understand that people are going through things that are really, really difficult. And so it's about having the patience and looking what's outside, because unfortunately, sometimes what we know is the most comfortable, and it's the unknown that's really, really scary.
It's so easy to stay comfortable and not change, huh? As opposed to stepping out there.
100%.
Yeah. Julie, I also, you said so many things that you put it in ways that I didn't hear it before. And here's something that you've said, and I'll just use the quote now, and I want you to talk about it. You said something about main character status. Now, I think I did get that from you. What did you mean by that? That a
Well,
person can assume a main character status in their life.
absolutely. You don't give people the pen to write your story. You keep it. So in your life is your life, right? So I'm not going to hand over the pen to somebody else to write my life. I'm going to choose to hold the pen of what works for me. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to be morbid or anything like that, but we are one with ourselves, and that's it. Right. So what does that look like for you? And I'm going to be honest, some people don't know yet. They've never thought about it because they're engulfed with um, the identity that they have in their roles, right? Whether it's profession, parent, spouse. And so when you hand that pen over, and those are wonderful things, but you are not your profession, that's what you do. So it's very important to be like, yes, I love my job and I love being a spouse and I love being a mom or a dad, but who I am on the inside is just as important. And when you can identify that and be that in your intentions every day, in your being, you show up so rich to everybody around you that there's no question that you have an internal light. So be the main character. It's not selfish.
Ah, love it. So I can imagine someone trying to balance this. They're trying to balance being their authentic self and at the same time, being in harmony with someone else. How do you know that you're in balance? How do you know that it's out of balance? How do you recognize this?
Okay, I have a love-hate with the word balance, right? Because when you
Okay.
think about a balance, right? One thing goes off, it's off kilter. And life, if we're in harmony, not everything is going to be even. Sometimes family is going to require more of you. Sometimes your job is going to require you, or your parents are sick. So it's about being in harmony with everything in your life and being okay. Sometimes I got to put a little bit more with the family. And guess what? I'm okay with that because my job is working. It's effective, and this is where I get to be right now and being unapologetic for it. And then maybe sometimes things are going on in your profession, but because you are in harmony with your family, nobody's lacking, right? Nobody is lacking. You're in harmony because you're feeling all of those in your being daily. So that is my thing with balance is if we step off one, it goes up, it goes down, or we fall over. So it is that reality.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You mentioned writing your life, but I also know that you've done some writings that have appeared in books. So can you talk with us a little bit about, your writing project and what you try to convey as a writer?
Sure. I did a chapter in a book with other entrepreneurs, and I wanted to capture that. Again, I think I titled it, it was how my house flipped over, how I survived it. And now I'm thinking, because that was a couple of years ago, now I'm thinking maybe my house was flipped over the whole time. And it was actually right side up because I would not trade where I am now for anything. So I wanted people to know that it's always the flip side of how you look at it. So I did sit in victimhood for a little while, but it wasn't until I got outside of that and being in gratitude. And so the chapter includes gratitude, how to, journal and be really present with self, and just giving little tips of how you can reframe things in your life, that life is for you and that it's not happening to you.
So how has your personal healing journey show up in your coaching others that healing is possible? What about, your level of conviction about it's possible for human being to heal?
Oh, you have the training, you have the book work, but it's nothing like life experience, right? So I would never take my clients where I dare not go myself. So thinking about how I've switched it, how I grew up to kind of suck it up. And now I'm completely switched everything. I sold my home. I took the risks. I was authentic, transparent with my children during a difficult time, what that looked like. Is all possible because I have lived it, and still going through it because I will consistently elevate myself into different areas. So I'm excited about life. And so it's funny, when you are a coach, you'll realize that you attract people that are mirrors to you. So, the clients I've had, I've all seen parts of me within them. So,
Yeah. So, as a transformational coach, do you have a specialty? Is there something that you specialize in, or, anyone with a challenge may come to you?
Yeah, everybody with a challenge can come. Business is not my forte, so more personal and how we show up in our lives. Mindset is where I am currently. If somebody was looking for business coaches, that wouldn't be, I would pass it off to somebody else. But as far as anyone looking to, a lot of my clients come and say, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on, but I know there's something better. So if that is something, or you need accountability for goals, you want to set some really serious goals and take committed action and have accountability, I'm there for it all. So I don't believe in one size fits all, because I don't have one program that's completely tailored to everybody. It's going to be, whatever you need, this is what we can do.
I got you. This is my last question. Well, maybe there's one more, but at your website, and I love Maya Angelou, and you quote Maya Angelou. I want to read the quote to you and have you share with us, why is this quote important and why do you highlight it? Is that okay with you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so here's the quote. If you're always trying to be normal, you have normal in caps, you will never know how amazing you, in caps, can be. Why is this important to you and why do you share it?
Thank you for asking, because I do not love the word normal. Because and even when I worked in the clinic, they would say, well, I want to be normal. Well, what is normal? Are you comparing yourself to somebody else? Because what is, or who you be is yourself. So if you're normal, can be trying to compare yourself because society tells you you need to be X, Y, and Z. What voice are you hearing? So let's cut away being normal and be authentically who you are is freeing. Because the word normal to me keeps you almost trapped, right? And you're missing out who you authentically are. I mean, I'm quirky. So maybe somebody would say, you jumping in and selling your house and switching your life is not normal. Well, who says, right? I would miss out on a whole array of, getting to know myself if I listen to other people. So
I love it. I love the quote. I'm so glad you highlighted it on your site. Julz, is there anything else you care to share with us that I have not already asked you?
Yeah, I think one thing that comes to mind is opinions. I love this, I didn't make it, I've heard it a million times, but I love it. If you wouldn't trade your life for somebody else's, you don't need to keep the opinion of others. You don't need to take it, right? And you don't need to be upset about it. You can be thankful that they wanted to, support you, but you can let it go if it doesn't fit, if it doesn't resonate. I always say it's like going to try on clothes at a store. The woman will give you an outfit, and if it doesn't fit, you don't think anything back. You're like, well, it doesn't work. It doesn't look good on me. You give it back. So you're not going to go home and be totally upset about it. You just say, I'll try a different size. Same with opinions. You don't have to take it. You don't have to get upset about it if it doesn't resonate with you.
Wow. You don't have to fight. You just realize it's someone else's opinion. Julie, Rivera, look, I really enjoyed this conversation, and truly, I've learned a great deal. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I do this podcast, is that I learned so much, and today was no exception. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
You've been listening to the Possibility Action Network podcast. Our guest today has been Julie Rivera. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton. Until next time, good day.
You are not alone, just keep on.